exhibit is called North Vancouver Island at War, and it's focusing on the First and Second World Wars, the story of what was happening here on the North Island during that time. Because we often learn in school about the European front, what was happening in the Asian front over in Japan and the South Asian seas, but we don't really hear a lot about what was happening right here on the West Coast. So this exhibit is telling some of those local stories. So one of the examples of something that was happening here is the fort at York Island, which is just off the coast of Sayward and Kelsey Bay. And it was a large fortified encampment that was used to monitor the waterways heading towards Vancouver and Victoria to protect against Japanese submarines and other ships coming through the area. So they were charged with monitoring all the shipping traffic going through that area. Lumbermen stationed there, and they made a large impact on the local community during the war, and their loss was when the war was over was felt with the community social life in the area, with this sudden absence of all of these men that had been stationed there. And some of the buildings are still in place at York Island today, so it's one of our relics of that time are all the buildings that are still in place there. Cases telling each individual story about some of the things that were happening here. Some of those include the Gumboot Navy, the fishermen's reserve that was active all up and down this coast. At that time, the Navy was focused on the Atlantic coast in the war with the German U-boats and the merchant, like protecting the ships going to and from Europe. But here on the coast we were being attacked by the Japanese, and so we needed some defense on the west coast as well, and so they made use of the vast resources of the local fishermen who knew the waterways here like the back of their hand and were fully equipped to deal with the weather and the systems in the water here on the coast. So they were sent out armed with very little, many of them armed with nothing more than a leftover rifle from World War I, to report on any Japanese submarines. There was a lot of really hard, difficult stories to hear as well, certainly especially about a section of the exhibit that highlights the lives of the men who are represented on our community cenotaph. These are all young men who died fighting during the war, and it was important for us to tell the stories of their lives as well. And so I found researching about those men very, very difficult, and there were a lot of tears shed for sure. The exhibit as a whole will be up until November 12th, so do take the chance to come in and see it.